Alright guys, welcome back. So today we're going to go over Unit 3 today. And before we get into our next lecture, we're going to talk about some honorable mentions or honorable projects that were submitted from last week. And I just want to, come on, are you serious? Let it load for a bit real quick. Let's see it load. Great. Well, I'll just show it from here. Oh wow, I deleted the other one. So these are some honorable mentions from the submission projects. So as you can see here, I don't know if you can notice it, but it loads up the video trailers. So these students went above and beyond and implemented the trailer. So as when you click on the little title of the movie, or some students did it on the actual image itself, it'll pop up a web view of YouTube. Some did like a search, and some it took you straight to the movie trailer of YouTube, which is pretty cool. So give you props for you guys who were able to complete those bonus challenges. And now the presentation should work. Come on. Let me try it again. Okay. Alrighty, now it should work. Oh wow, now it loaded. Okay, cool, I guess. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and talk about Unit 3. So this week we're going to be working with Twitter. So you guys are going to be actually implementing your own user account from Twitter and implement the basic functionality of Twitter into your own app. So in your own app that you will create, you will be able to tweet, you will be able to like other people's tweets, retweet, like, and also view the actual tweets that are pulled from your feed, from your home feed on your user account. So let's get started, talk more about it. So remember guys, we have walkthrough videos on this, so they just updated actually. So it's a bit different than last quarter, because when I was doing it, they had videos that were from Xcode 7, I think, or Swift 3. But now since we're in Swift 4, they have thankfully updated all their videos for Swift 4, so that you guys will not get any errors, which in my case I did, and I had to struggle a lot because most of their stuff was outdated now. So I had to struggle with some of their walkthrough videos because they weren't updated to like Swift 4. So there was a lot of syntax issues, and I suffered. But luckily you guys won't do that. You guys will not suffer. So in any case, if you guys have any trouble, we'll be here for you. So one of the students here mentioned that the assignment was due yesterday at 11:59 a.m. Sorry about that confusion. I fixed it already, so if it was submitted late, don't worry, it'll automatically change back to submitted on time, hopefully. But homework is submitted, that was submitted before 11:59 p.m. yesterday. It's fine, don't worry about it. I know some of you might have gotten an email saying that your assignment was late, or that you haven't completed it, etc. Don't worry, I changed the assignment deadline for it, which was supposed to be yesterday midnight. So don't worry about that. It should be fixed now. And remember to submit your assignments on the course portal. I cannot emphasize a lot on that. Even my overseers told me that you have to keep reminding them because they're not submitting it. So I said, okay, I know they're not that dumb. But just in case, submit on the course portal. And now we're going to talk about the deadline. Same as always, Sunday midnight. And this time I made sure that it's at midnight so that you guys won't have any issues or any emails concerning that. And remember to use a discussion system. There's a lot of help that you can get there. We're always going to be there for you. There will be times in which I can't help, since I don't have an iPhone. Like, I can't help you out with issues when you're installing on your iPhone. I could maybe if you show up and come to person to me, but not through email. I can't because I don't have an iPhone. So in that case, there's always a discussion system where other people do have an iPhone, and they can provide a lot of help regarding that. So let's recap what we're going to do today. So I want you guys to download the Twitter starter. It's on your course portal. And into today's class assignment, we're going to work with auto layout. So we're going to get a head start with our homework. But before you guys start on your homework assignment, we're going to learn auto layout and how it works and how to implement it in multiple devices so that you guys can start working on your Twitter project assignment. And trust me, I bet that most of you will struggle more with the auto layout than the actual coding section of Twitter. So I want to help you guys out with auto layout so that we can take that out of the way and help you guys not encounter a lot of issues with that because it gets frustrating. So once again, for those that just came in, download the Twitter starter from your course portal, and I'll be around to help you guys out with the assignment later on. But before that, we're going to go through auto layout topic first, and we're going to go through attendance also. So if you guys can open up your email, or if you didn't get an email, I posted the link right here. So bit.ly//codepath unit 3, and the code for today's attendance is Twitter. Let me know when you guys have successfully marked down your own attendance. Hello, welcome in. Oh, and the Twitter starter project is on your assignment 3, and it should be on step number 3. I'll let you guys know where to find it after this. Yeah, question?
I got responses it's unit 2. Yeah.
Oh, my bad. It should be unit 3, but I'll change that on the form. But that's the link to it. It's because I just copy and paste. I'm lazy. My bad. Let me see. Oh, yeah, it says unit 2. There you go. Now it should say unit 3 if you refresh it. Everybody good in attendance? Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and go on with reminders. Oops. Alright. So reminders for today. Next week we're going to... Oh, never mind. Disregard this. And that. The assignment is due by a deadline. Everybody knows that. And get started early. I've already told you guys enough times to the point where you guys remember. Or maybe I have told it enough times. But anyhow, get started especially on this project because Twitter is actually one of the hardest. Hello, come on in. Twitter is one of the hardest projects that you'll work on, especially the first part, since you will be implementing on how to log in users, how to log them out, how to like a tweet, how to retweet stuff. So it's gonna take a while trying to understand Twitter's API. So make sure you guys prepare for this project because it's one of the toughest ones to do. However, if you guys complete this one after next week, which is tweeting on your own app, you're gonna start working on your own backend server. So we're gonna work with Parse, which is a NoSQL database server that you guys will be implementing, and working with Heroku to host your application. So you're actually going to build Instagram from scratch. You're going to be able to post pictures, upload them to the database, retrieve them when your user logs in, and the bonus challenges are adding followers, likes, comments. Those are the pretty hard, tough ones. But the basic functionality is even harder. But if you guys are able to get past by the basics of... Oh, shit, I forgot my charger. If you guys get to bypass the basics of implementing your own database in 2 weeks, you guys are set for working at Google or at any other big tech company because that's all you do, full stack. Let me just charge this. And if you guys don't, yeah, question.
You mentioned that if you're using Parse, I thought they shut down a year or 2 ago.
So yeah, they're no longer sponsored by Facebook because it used to belong to them. But they shut it down, but now it's open source.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's open source now. They shut it down for private use because a lot of people started getting into it, and they're like, hey, make it just public because might as well. So it's open source. It's a really great tool, and we use it, And if not, I can also teach you guys Firebase if you want to learn more. It's a different type of server. That one's by Google, and that one they do charge if you start getting like more than 100 users or something, or a lot of activity. But Parse is really well, like as a starting point to start learning backend. So for those that came in, the attendance is right here. You guys should have gotten an email. The code is Twitter, and please make sure you do that so I can mark you down present. And do you guys have any questions regarding what we're going to be doing or today's session, so we can start getting coding and working with our projects? Nothing? Alrighty. So let's get coding. So today we're going to be working on auto layout. So I want you guys to open up a by the way, before you guys start, make sure you download the Twitter starter project, which is down assignment and down here on the not here, the starter project. It's on step number 2, so make sure you download that, because I will have you work on the starter project already in a bit. Awesome. So if you guys have your computers right now, open them up and let's get started with a new project. So we're going to open up a new project and we're going to just call this auto layout. And just save it wherever you can. I'll put it over here. Alright, so make sure you guys start it up on a storyboard, and we're going to set up our first auto layout project, or learn differences and the concepts of it and the tools that you can use for it. Yeah, question? For attendance? Oh, you didn't get an email? For, no? Oh, check with me after class. But were you able to do it through the link? Were you able to do it through the link? Oh, it's, can someone help her with the attendance link, please? Thank you. But everyone else, they have their Xcode project open up? Alright, that means yes. So, why do we need to learn auto layout? So one of the first reasons why we need to learn auto layout is because you want your own app to be working on multiple devices. And when you open it up, obviously, if you don't do any auto layout, it's going to look very differently when you open it up on a new device. So for example, I'm going to implement a view. Into my storyboard, and I'm going to put some color on it. I'll just make it yellow. So do you guys know where it is relatively on the iPhone 8 screen, right? You guys can see that? Let me drag this up a little bit more. There you go. So we're seeing it right now on an iPhone 8 screen, but what happens when we change this to, like, let's say an iPhone XR? You see that it's like a little bit more towards that side, right? To the left side. What about an iPad? Nice. It looks all the way over here. But what if we start implementing more boxes into it? So let me put another box right here. And if we open it up on another screen, you can see that there's like more space over here, right? Like you get to see more white space in this area as you keep switching on devices. Even like for an iPad, you can see that it starts missing out a lot of space. And what happens when we go to a smaller device like an iPhone 5S? The white box is cut out, right? You guys can see it, like it's going through it, so you can't really see it. So today we're going to be working on how do we automatically position these boxes into the screen automatically onto the iPhone. So we're going to work on the tools called the constraint tool and also the view tool, which is this one right here. These are the two main tools that you're going to be working on today, and this one, which is the embedded view. So let's go ahead and start with regular, what do you call it? Regular constraints. So let's go back into our two yellow squares, and let's make another one and have this one be blue. So, and this is how I want it to look. So if I change it up on another device, that's not going to look the same on the iPad, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to add some constraints to it so that it'll always look a little bit more like this all the time. It'll look like a robot face. So we're going to go ahead and start adding margins into it, margin constraints. So you go on the bottom right and you see like this little square and it's like tightened up with brackets. You use this to add constraints to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some constraints to the top and to the left. That way what will happen is that this box will be always a certain amount of spaces between here and the top and here to the left. That's what the constraints do. So in this case, I want it to be, let's say, 16 pixels, and here I want it to be 16 pixels away from the left. So that way, on whatever device that it is running on, it'll always be, in this case, 16 spaces away from the top and 16 spaces away from the left. So I'll add those two constraints. Oh, shit. Why is it red? Oh yeah, because it needs constraints over here. And for this box, I'm going to add also 16 spaces away from the top and 16 spaces away from the right. And I'm getting an error. Because blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, it needs for the height. Okay. So if you guys are getting this error, which I am right now, just set it with a set width and height right here, so that it won't give you that error anymore. So you can just click on the width and height, and it'll set a fixed width and height. There you go. So now it'll automatically position the box 16 spaces above and 16 spaces away from the left. Same with this one. I'm just going to make it a fixed width and height. There you go. And now for this one, let's say that you want to add a constraint between two items, right? Like instead of the screen, I want it to be, let's say that I want this box, this yellow box right here, to be 16 spaces away or more away from the other yellow box. So what you do is you do control drag, and you drag it to the other view, and then, oh, never mind. Oh, horizontal spacing. You add that horizontal spacing, and you can modify it to whatever it is that you want. In this case, it's a constant, but I just want it 16 spaces away. And I can make it greater than or equal to, rather than it has to be. So in this case, if let's say that you have a bigger screen, right? If it's bigger, then it'll push it. But if it's a smaller screen, then it should be 16 or more. That way, if you decrease the size of the screen, it'll still push it up to the point that this is 16 spaces away. So we can see here on the screen, when we shrunk it to like a smaller, you can see that the space between them, it's not the same as when I go on an iPhone XS, right? But it has to be greater than 16 up until it reaches the maximum amount of spaces that this can reach. So let's add a constraints for this blue box. So what I want to do with this box is I'm just going to give it a fixed height this time so that it can stay, so that it can have that height always. But the width is going to change according to the screen size. So what we can do in this case is we're going to add that height fixed constraint, and then let's say that we want this rectangular blue box to be 24 spaces away from these two yellow boxes. The way you do it is you just add the 24 to the top, and from the sides I'm just going to make it 16 and 16. So that way it's going to be 16 spaces away from the right, 16 spaces away from the left, and from the top it's going to be 24. Let's go ahead and add those constraints. And there you go. Now if I choose a different size, like an iPad, you can see that it'll stretch out automatically by its own. You guys saw that? Now it can stretch out as much as it needs to, up until it needs to like fill up 15 spaces between the left and the right. And I'm going to show you a very nifty tool that you can use for auto constraints, because I know it's very tedious switching back and forth from screens. So if you go on your assistant editor and click on it again, it'll show you, oh no, not here. So once you pop it out, you click on the automatic, the two circles right next to it on top, and there should be another one that says preview. You click on that one, and this will preview what it will look like on a what is this, an iPhone XS? Yeah. But let's say that I want to show more. So you click on the plus button at the bottom, and you can have more options right here. So let's add an iPhone SE, and this is how it will look on an iPhone SE. Let's add an iPad there, an iPad Pro. Bam! This is how it looks like on an iPad Pro. So this is a very nifty tool that you guys can use for visualizing how your app is going to look like on multiple devices. So now we're going to work with text. How to manipulate text, because if you guys noticed on your Flix app, it cuts out the description, right? Sometimes, or maybe you haven't noticed it. But what we're going to do on our Flix app is we're going to add the constraints so that the screen pushes, or each cell is pushed down so that it can show all the description of the movie. But we're going to learn the basics of text right here. So let's go ahead and delete these views, and let's add a text view, or a label, my bad. So I have my label right here. I'm going to add another one. So I have two labels right here. And what I want to do now is I'm going to, this is a long, actually let's just start with this label. Let's add the first constraints that we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and make the constraints for the first label. I'm going to make them 24, 16, and I added them. And same with this one, but the difference is going to be on the right side now. So I'm going to make it 24 and 16. Now what I'm going to do between these two labels is I'm going to add a constraint to the right side for this label right here. So I'm going to make it 32, and once it creates it, go ahead and click on this red line that will pop up and make it greater than or equal to. There you go. So now it pushes it. But now that we have our two labels, let's see what happens when we add a bunch of text to the left side label. Hello, blah. As you can see, it still messes up, even though we added the constraints. So what do we do in this case to make the text go down, to wrap it? What we do is we go on the attributes inspector, and you click on the lines, you set that equal to 0. So now it adds some space, but it's still kind of like going through it, right? So what we need to add is, where is it? Oh shoot, I zoned out. Right, let me go back to my notes. Where are my notes? Oh, so what happens is that if you guys notice on the, where is it? On your metrics attribute inspector, you notice that it has a hugging priority. So what this does is that each label, I don't know if you guys can read that. Can you guys read that? But it's on your the fourth one right here, the size inspector. So the hugging priority, it tells it which label has more priority over what. In this case, we can see that this label has more priority than this one because it's going through it. It doesn't care about this label that's here. So what we want to do is we want to give it a lower priority. So that way, this guy right here, this second label, it can stay where it is and push back this label right here. So we're going to go and change the priority horizontal. We're going to go back just by one. And you should go here on your little triangle, and where is it? There should be an update constraint constants. No? Okay. What you can do is you can go over here and it'll fix it for you too. So right here you can see the priority, the hugging priority, the hello blah blah blah. It can automatically change it for you. My bad, it was the compression one. That's the one that you guys should change. The compression one. So if you guys change it below, now, did you guys see that? Now it shifted it. So my bad, it wasn't the content hugging, it was the compression resistance for this example. So if we had it back to what it was, where is it? You guys can see that it pushed the label away, right? But if we make it lower, oh, what happened to it? What happened to my label? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this one, there you go. Oh, that's why. So priorities, the way they work is that if you have some text that is like going overboard, like in this case, hello blah blah blah, this one, if it has the same priority as the other label, what's going to happen is that it's just going to go through it, as you saw before. You see that? It pushed away the label. So what we want is we want both of them to have a fair share of space for the user to see what's going on. So what you do is for the labels or the items that take up the more space, you gotta like tell them to chill. So the way you do that is by lowering their priority enough to the point that this has a higher priority than your other label. So in this case, this has a 750 priority and this has a 751. And if you're concerned or confused about the numbers, those are set up automatically by Xcode. They just put like 3 digits so that in case your app has like a bunch of items, it'll go up to like 1,000 items. So you guys can set up different priorities for each item. So now that we have this set up, let's go ahead and open our Flix app and let's add some constraints to it. So I made a copy of my Flix app. So what we want to do with our own Flix app is we want the description to push down the cell as much as possible, because if I run it right now without any constraints, it's going to look horrible. So for mine, what I did on mine is I copied my own project and I deleted all the constraints on it, so it might look really weird, but that's fine. So this is how my project looks like when I took out the constraints on it. As you can see, it sucks. There's nothing on it. And the table view doesn't even extend all the way down to the screen where I want it to be, because I made this for an iPhone 8. So as you can see, there's a lot of white space on the right side, and there's a lot of white space down at the bottom. So let's go ahead and add some constraints to it. So first we're going to start off with the big boys. We're going to go ahead and add constraints to our table view. That's the very first thing that you add. So let's go ahead and add 0 to each margin. So that way the table view is going to be stuck right at the margin of the screen so that it doesn't go out anywhere. Bam. So now that we have that set up, well, let's give it. Oh yeah, whatever. The movie search bar also needs some space too. You guys don't need to worry about the search bar. That's the thing I implemented on mine. Cool. So now if we rerun our app, now the white space that we saw before, it should be gone. So let's see what happens. Perfect. So now it's covering all the edges of our screen. As compared to before, it had some white space over here and over here, right? All right. Now let's work within the insides of our app. So first and foremost, the big boys. Always start with the big boys. So in this case, we're going to start with our image view. So what I'm going to do to my image view is I'm going to set a set width and height so that the image never changes in terms of height or width and size, in other words. And I'm going to go ahead and add these constraints to it that are already set up. 8, 8, 8. And for the bottom, I'll just make it also 8. Actually, let's make it 24. 24. There you go. And what I'm going to do is, if we don't set, even though we set the constraints to be 8 all the time, actually you guys will see what happens. So now let's go ahead with the second biggest boy, which is the title. So let's go ahead and add some constraints to it. I want it to be like very aligned with my image on the top. So I'm gonna add constraints the same as my image view, which was 8 to the top. And that's pretty much it. And then to the other sides, I'm gonna add, let's say that I want 8 spaces away from the image view. And to the right side, I'm gonna have also, I'll just make it 16. And for the bottom, I want it to push the description. I want the title to push the description, like, I think I would say 8 also would be fine. Alright, so now our title has some constraints in it, and you can see them marked in blue lines, right? You can always tell by those lines. Now let's go ahead and add some constraints to my description. So it already has a constraint on the top because we gave the title a constraint to it, which was the bottom. But they're the same thing. It's the same constraint, just different positioning. So now what we need for our description, we need to add constraints left and right and the bottom. So let's go ahead and add some constraints to left. I'll make it 8 so that it can be aligned with the title. And then 8 to the right. And for the bottom, I'll make it 16. Or 24, actually. 24 is better. But now here's the difference. We want our description to push away the cell in case it's longer, right? So from what I showed you guys earlier, what did we do to the label in order to wrap it and push it down instead of just keep going to the side? We go ahead into our attributes inspector and we change the lines to 0. That way, it'll push it all the way down. So now what's going to happen is, actually let's run it and see what happens so you guys can see. Cool. So as we can see, it looks nicer, way nicer than before, right? Now you can actually see the picture, you can see the image, the title, and description. However, can you guys see that it's not dynamic? So each cell is pretty much the same size, like no matter what. And we can see that some of the text is missing. So if we click here, when Charlie blah blah blah, there's more text that's missing. So what do we need to do? We need to make ourselves dynamic so that whenever there's more text, we can have this text push the cell down even more. So let's go ahead and add and modify the current constraint that we set up on the description. So we want our description to push down the cells if there's more text, right? And we already did the 0, but that's not enough. So when you're working with table views, if you want a label or any other element to push down the cell more, or you want it to expand, you go ahead into the last item that's on the bottom. In this case, it would be the description, because that thing can extend all the way down. The image, it's always going to be the same height. So that's not really concerning. So let's go ahead and modify the constraint that pushes down our cell. And we're going to go ahead and make this greater than or equal to. That way, if there's more text and it doesn't fit with the current constraints, then it's going to push it even more by setting up the constraint of greater than or equal to. So let's try and run that. Oh, I forgot one thing. So since the image is sometimes, so what happens is that since the image is sometimes, there's less text, but the image is the last thing that's pushing it down, we got to give the image also some, modify its constraints to push it down, to help us out. So I'm going to go ahead and modify the bottom space, and I'm going to make it equal to greater than or equal to, which is right here. There you go. So each one has its own thing, but I just modified the bottom space. And now if I try it, let's see what it gives us. There you go. So now it pushed down, we had this text before, and it pushed down the text, or the cell even more, with the constraints that we just added, which are the greater than or equal to. And let's go down to see even more. There you go, Dragon Ball. It pushed down the cell even more. Creed, not enough, so it just stayed there. Mortal Engines, there we go. We can see that it pushed down the cell even more. And let's try it if we rotate the device. Let's see how it looks. Whoa, that looks nasty. Wait, was there any description for this movie? Oh, I guess there wasn't. But as you can see, it also works when we rotate it, our device. So that looks pretty cool. Alrighty. Let's go back to normal. So now that we have that set up, that's the basics of auto layout. So what I want you guys to do now is what you guys, with what you learned right now, team up in pairs of 2 or 3 and start working on the Twitter assignment. And just work on the auto layout. Like set up the things that you're going to be visualizing. And I have an image of what it should look like in the end. Hopefully it doesn't look that blurry. That is hecka blurry. But can you guys see it? Can you guys distinguish each thing a little bit? Okay. So I want you guys to download the starter project of Twitter, team up with a person or 2, and start setting up this layout. But make sure that it has the constraints on it so that you guys have it set up. And if you guys didn't work on your Flix, if you guys weren't able to work on the Flix one, work on that one. And I can show you guys how to work out with the auto constraints. So team up, and I'll be here, guys, to help you out. And let's work on this for like 15 minutes. And then from there on, we'll do a bonus if you guys want to. Yeah.
So the way you actually put in like you're supposed to do it and those are the only things that are pushing. Well, so this one is the first model that you see at the bottom and then for the top is there's no way you kind of side perspective. You can see that so you see and then bottom everything equals 0. Otherwise, put down the description. Greater than or equal to 0. Oh. You have the winner one? Oh, click on the big one. Click on the attributes. In this case, on the bottom space constraint, add 24 instead of 0. And same for the image. Greater than or equal to 24. You gotta add some space. And because if you make it 0, it'll attach to the whatever cell in the bottom. It'll be like stuck with it. So add 24 to it. Okay. Oh, you're gonna have to. I forgot to add some code because I had on my screen. It's on the page. Yeah. Oh, just gotta probably do one that makes it consistent. And over here doesn't have the and then go. No. Just as that, right? What you can do is you can go on your Cocoa Pods. Oh, I see what's going on. Yeah. Because you opened up this project. You need to open the XC project. So where's your... Yeah, you need to open this. You need to open this. The one that looks above. Okay. Yeah, that's the one with the box. And then you want to... I'll be right save the height. Okay. So right?
I don't really understand, like, when do you use these?
Okay, because
Well, you know how you want the text to expand the box, so like, you see how the names are two links? So like, it will expand, it will push the act to the left, so you usually want to use your set width and I mean, I'm pretty sure.
no, you gotta do that first, and then see if yeah, that's why I always go for the big boards, especially if you set it to a fixed width and height. So that way it will not change again. There's some code that you can use to add.
Alright guys, I forgot to give you some code regarding the movie project. So what you want to do to make it the cells dynamic is you want to add this code right here, the row height, so that you can let know the table view that each cell is going to have its automatic, its own height. That way it doesn't get confused. So you just need to add these two functions on your viewDidLoad function. Movie table.rowHeight equal to UI table view automatic dimension. This sets it to have each table view cell to have its own height. That way each cell can be different instead of all having the same height. And then the estimated row height, this is just like a default, like saying, hey, if there's no image or if there's no text at all, just make it 50 as a default. So you just need these two lines, and then it should be working. If not, let me know again.
And that's in our movies.
Yeah, this is on the view controller, the one that's controlling this view controller right here. Yeah. Let me know if that fixes the issue that you guys are having. Bless you.
Oh. Oh, yeah. Is your team that happens? One thing is missing. One is missing. All the others are messed up. But you can see that this one's different than all the others. This one is that came from Flix. Safe area? So, safe area only applies to the top of it. So this is a safe area where you have the clock and the battery. So that's a safe area.
And then height and
You
width.
make it equal to super view, and it'll cover up your clock. And then you can see. Oh, that's it. Okay, that's a safe area.
Oh, that's one. So you want to do
But it's easy to get this. You can see it's not pushing the cell right now as it is. Right? Oh, you see? Oh. Oh.
Yeah, I just had to put 16. So it's just
But I think this is one that might,
yeah, I don't know. That's it's not.
everything is, you can see how these, there's space missing here. You can see it, right? And here there is things between space missing. It's because it's starting in the middle. Like when you set your label, it starts in the middle and it builds up sideways. What we want is to start on the top and push down. So there is gotta be something going on with the label. When you see that, oh yeah, yeah. Right. Yeah, there's definitely going on and you can see that it has like its own effect right now.
Oh, fine. For a label entry,
And the rest then will just be just handle it like that.
yeah.
Yeah. Only those one of these.
No, mine it's like truncated. It's like squished and then it pushes everything up. You see what I mean? Over there. Like this one, the label is like it's there and that's it. It doesn't go down. But this one it pushes. Yeah, it adds some height.
Yeah, I just use the which
I don't know understand. Oh, no, now it's oh wait, it's not.
What'd you say your name?
Ten.
Ten? Are you like a second or third?
Extra stuff in the album. To 32.
Yeah, 37.
Oh, it's in yourself. Or you can drag and drop. There you go. And then already connected to wherever it is. What? Oh, so you have the yeah. Yeah. There you go. You know what? I think it's because I forgot to make it really interesting. Oh, you did? Then it probably. Let's go back. It didn't have the grade of the probably not. Yeah, no. But yeah, I think it was just like that's really weird the way that it set it up for you. No. Yeah, it was probably the way that label was. Like maybe you added constraints to it and then you took them off, or maybe you modified by accident one of the attributes and it completely messed it up. So now you no, I'm not there you go. There you go. Constraints and markers? Yeah. So what happens is that oh, you hadn't need to connect. So regarding the margin, yes, when you set the constraints, when you set the constraints to margin, the table view has its own margin of like 8 pixels. So if you set this equal to, for example, let me remove the constraints for the image. space. And that's it. Okay, now I want to do it. So what happens is that right now it's just 8 spaces apart, right? But if you set it the constraints with the constraint margins option, it's gonna push it like 8 spaces even more. There's all because table views have like their own margin in there, or their own constraints set up, so that it pushes anything automatically. So, but without the table views, if you're doing constraint margins and it wasn't on the table view, then it's fine. It's like the same thing as doing without the margins. But that's the main difference. Table view has their own margins. Yeah. Yeah, that's how it should be. Dynamic. No. So what I was telling you is that each table view, if you put it in constraint margins, table view has like their own margins. So you have your phone. So for example, on your phone, the margin for the original screen is all the way here, right? But if you add a table view, it'll add more margin and it'll push it here. So if you add, if you put to margin, then it'll push it here. But if you put 8 and the margin, it'll push it even more. Yeah, so you can, so it can always be stuck to the screen if you want. Yeah, because it, like I said before, when you constrain to the margins, it adds some padding already. It does it automatically. Yeah, that's why it's an easier way of doing it. But since we want to customize everything, we take out the constraint to margins so that we can fully customize all the way. Alright, guys. Good luck. Yeah. For the how to set the constraints? Yeah. Okay. So what you need to add margins to the bottom of the imagery and your synopsis set. So you already set it here, right? Right here, you already have that. The image. Let's see if it has. Let's see the bottom space. You have to make this for the image equal to or greater also. So go ahead and make that equal to or greater. There you go. And then for the description, make sure that you have greater than or equal to, and go ahead and switch this to 0. And let's see the rate. Yeah, that's fine. Make sure that going to, oh yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Try it. There you go. Yeah. And what do you think?
就是image view 的下面你要大于1，这个字就是注重对，我漏了字典 image view 也是要大于1。
Yeah. Oh yeah. Check it with me.
But
No, the email thingy.
I
Oh.
found it.
Oh, you got it?
I missed the 2 units. Is it too late for me to catch up?
Oh, you may miss it.
I
The
missed
assignment?
like the first. Yeah, I'm still doing it, but like I still missed the deadline. But I'm gonna still complete it.
No, that's fine. You have 3 extensions. 3 homework extensions.
So I can make it late, or can submit it late, or what is
You can submit it 48 hours late. Yeah.
Oh, well, it's.
Oh, you're talking about the first one?
Yeah, I haven't done anything.
Oh,
else.
no,
I'm
you
so
should-
busy with school.
You have to do it regardless because you need that one to do the second assignment.
Yeah.
But it's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
okay.
can still turn it in. Yeah, don't worry.
Anybody else got any questions? No. Oh, so how do you put this in the center, right? Okay. Yeah, I'll show you guys.
So I had an interesting question for you guys, which was regarding the Flix app. So if you guys want to know how to set this image view in the center of this one, you might be wondering how the heck do you do that, right? So there are some things that I didn't go over because I know that auto layout is very confusing, but since you guys have managed to stay this long, I'll show you guys how to do this. So the way you do it is you go on your poster image. Let me take out the constraints that it already has. So we already gave it a width and a height, right? Everything is fixed. We have our trailing space, and then we have the alignment for the trailing space and the alignment. So this is what we're going to remove. We're going to take out, actually let me just remove all the constraints. Screw it. Where is it? So if you run your app, this is not always going to be in the center of your app when you run it on a different iPhone, right? So how do you make it always be in the center of your poster image? The way you would do it is you drag and drop, you connect it to this image view, and then once you click on it, it'll show you an option that says vertical spacing. So actually, this one, center vertically. Do you see that option? So we want to center it vertically, and what we do here is we click on the align to center, this line, right? And what you want is, where is it? Here it is. On the second item, there's a bunch of options that you can play around with, and each one has its own thing. So center Y, this places it in the middle. So if you click on that one, it should be like over here. This is what center Y does. Let me add some constraints to this. There. So this is what center Y does. Now let's go ahead and do something else. First baseline. So you see what happened there when I clicked on the first baseline? Did you guys see that? Make sure you guys look up here when I do this part right here. So first baseline, it puts it in the middle of the top. And if I go on the last baseline, it basically means that it'll go all the way down and center it at the base of the last element, which is this item. Did you guys saw that? You want me to show you again? So I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to add the control, drag to my image view, and I'm going to center it vertically first. Alright, so this is what center does. The normal, the default option. It just centers it in the middle of the image view poster and the background image. But there's many other things that you can do around with it. So you go on your size inspector, click on your align on this option. You can play around with it. There's many other options. So the first baseline is basically align it to the top of the middle, right? Align the middle of this to the top of this item. And if you go back to it and we align it to the last baseline, it'll add it to the middle of the bottom of the poster of the background image. And there's more options that you can play, like bottom, it's the same one. Relative to margin, what does that one do? I don't know. Let me take that one off. But yeah, those are the different ones that you can do. The center Y, the top, and then the last baseline. So those are the different ones. Because if we didn't have that, then this is what it would be like. this is what it would show. Let me show you on the multiple devices. So as you can see, it's already not in position where I want it to be. This one's kind of weird. Oh, because I put it vertically. Let me add another one. As you can see, if I don't center it to the baseline, you can already see that it's not even in the center anymore. And with the constraints, so it already has some constraints, but if you want it to be always in the middle, then you gotta add that constraint that I told you about. So go back to this one, and now let's see what happens when we center it. So now as you can see, it centers it on both screens, right? But we want it to be always in the middle. So let's go ahead into the size inspector and play around with them so you can see what it looks like on the screen. This is how it looks like when I center it on the first baseline and when I put it on the last baseline. So now it's always going to be in the middle no matter what. You guys saw that? Alright. So that's how you do that. You can also center horizontally if you guys wanted to align like a list of items. For example, in this case, the title. Let's say that I wanted these two to be always aligned in the middle. What you do is you click drag and drop title label, and then in this one you center horizontally. There you go. It doesn't really show anything, but let me show you the example over here instead. Let's say that for these two, I'm going to delete the constraints. Let me show you. So there's another way to go about how to set the constraints for each one. So what you want to do is you start off with the first item and you give it the constraints that you needed, right? And for the second one, all you need to do is you can drag and drop to the title one, and then what you can do is you can do where is it? It's got to be horizontally. And let's say that I know what happened. There you go. So let's say that I wanted this one to the left, right? I want the description 8 spaces away from the no, how about this? Let's say that I want to have this have the same amount of space between the image and the title. This space, I want it to be the same as this one. Well, one way to go about it is to just put 8 spaces away, 8 spaces away. Simple, right? But when you start putting in more stuff, you might forget if you put 8 or 10 or 16 to it, right? So you can forget. So what you want to have is, you want to start off with one of them, and then you set this one equal to that constraint as well. There's a way to do that. And you go onto your alignment, and what you can do is, I think it was horizontal spacing, no. Pretty sure it was I think it's horizontal centering, and then you modify it so that you can put it like relative to the margin, leading margin, or the trailing margin. Nope, it's not that one. I forgot how it was. Hold up. No. Oh, yeah, I've been seeing. Oh. Kind of forgot, but no, it's not this one. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyhow, let me show you some other cool stuff. Since you guys are here. Where's mine? So I wanted to go over with you guys stack views. So the way you set up stack views, it's pretty simple. Let's say that you wanna, that you're building like the phone app, right? And you have let me show you how it looks like. There you go, this one. Let's say that you guys wanted to like do something like this, like the buttons, right? How do you make all of these buttons? When you think about it, what is one way that you would go about this? Sure, you can just go ahead and add 9 buttons, or no, not 9, 12 buttons, and then add constraints to each and single one of these. That's very tricky. So for that solution, what they built is they built something called stack views. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to create a bunch of labels. And yeah, you're going to have to align some of these. But I'll make a simple 4x4. And this is how you're going to work with them. So first you got to align all these buttons to one another. And then there's something called stack views. So you select 2 items, right? And then what you do is you can go here in the first option, embedded in, and there's one option that says stack view. Can you guys see that one? So what it does is now these 2 items are in one. You like created 2 in 1 essentially, and you can stack all of these as well. So for example, in this case, I'm going to select all of them and I'm going to stack them. Bam. So now they're all stacked up in 1, right? And let's say that I created another one. Let me align it to this. And now I'm going to stack up these 2. Bam. So now it's a stack within a stack. So now what we can do with these is we can play around with the options that the stack view has to offer. In this case, we can add space between each one. For example, 60, or let's make it 100. So add spaces between all the items for you without having to go in each one of these and add constraints to each one. Instead, using the stack, you can add spacing to all of them at once. And same with the ones here. Let's say that you want to add space between those. You can go into your stack for this one and add space to it. In this case, let's make 24. There you go. Same with this stack. Let's add to this stack, let's add 24 as well. Bam. You guys saw that? So that's the purpose of stack views, so that you can create where is it? Something like this for like the number phone. That's the purpose of stack views, so that you can set them up, and then you can just give the constraints to the stack view itself. In this case, it'll be these. Bam. Oh, what's missing? Oh, it does need a bottom one. Let me make this greater. The heck? Hello. Why does it want to add it? Remove that. Okay, whatever. But you guys get the point. And you can make another stack with like you can copy and paste these stacks, so you can add another one. Oh shoot. What happened to it? And if you want to separate it, you can just add it out right here. There you go. So now you separated the stack that was here before. Oops. And these work perfectly. Like, let's say that this is like 0, 1, 2. Actually, let's just make it up to here. There. So what we can do with these is we can arrange them in case you messed up on something. For example, I can click on the 1. I can drag and drop it here in front of the 2, and it'll move the 2 automatically. So that way you don't have to worry about the constraints or anything. It'll automatically move them for you. And I'll go ahead and show you guys how to create like the phone. So we have our 3 stacks, right? We go ahead and combine these and make another stack out of these. Bam. There you go. And now you can just go ahead and modify each of these. So in this case it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then whatever. Oh. Oops. And we can just delete these. Oops. Yeah, we'll have it as this. There. Oh, I kind of messed it up. dang it. I'll just go back to what I had. There, let's keep it like this. And now what you can do to it is you can add to all of them. You can add like a background to it. So in this case, we can have like a background color to it, like green. Same with these. We can make it green. Or actually, we can just do it to a full stack right here. And add a background color of green. Where is it? No, doesn't want to add it. Yeah. Never mind, you have to do it to each one. What if I add it here? No. Yeah, you can do it to everything. I'll just go ahead and add it to all of them. There you go. And then what you can do is you can play around with the width of all these items and add like a width of 24. And then same with this one. There we go. So we just created like our own mini phone number app where you can start typing in the phone, and you can like go ahead and just play around with it. Same with these. Put them in the middle. What happened? Yeah, you can put them as buttons. Right now I'm just using labels so I can like make it easier for you guys to visualize. But yeah, you would essentially have these as buttons. So every time you tap on these ones, it'll type it up on the, you can record it using a variable, and then you can also update a label on top that says phone number text. And that's how you would implement like your own phone number app. Simple like that. But do you guys have any questions about stack views? Pretty straightforward, right? So you create a bunch of labels or buttons, whatever it is that you're stacking up, and then you highlight all of them, and then you go on the embedded in, and there's an option that says stack view. There's also more options that you can explore, like scroll view. That's if you want to make your own settings app and you want to scroll down to it. So that's how you would go out and create like your own settings page using a scroll view. If there's a lot of settings, obviously. If you can fit, always try to fit your settings in one page so that you don't have to mess around with the scroll view, because it's a lot of work setting up the scroll view. But anything else other than that, everything is pretty plain straightforward. And then you can modify, play around with this, and like put circles around them, like the way that they do it on their iPhone app. Where is it? Yeah, like this. You can put like circles around them. But for the circle, you have to do that programmatically. You can't add that on through the storyboard. It's not that simple. But you can look it up online. There's a way of how to modify all of them, and then just make the background have a radius. You set the radius. You can't modify the radius here because they don't put the option there, but you can modify the radius of all the items, of all the labels here. Simply. That's it for today, guys. It's a lot of auto layout. It will be hard for you guys. Twitter's going to be rough, so make sure you work with Twitter, get started on it. And don't worry about the auto layout for Twitter. Just have the functionality first. Like make sure that it works. Like you click on the button that sends a tweet, it sends a tweet. If you want to retweet, make sure those things work. And then work on the auto layout. Like work on making it look pretty. Those are, yeah, question?
If you tweet, does it actually go to the Twitter?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it does work on your Twitter. I can even show you on mine. When I did mine. When I worked on mines, where's Twitter? So this is my browser, and this is my app when I worked on it. So whenever I would log in, so you have to log in and everything, right? And then you get your basic Twitter page, right? So if I retweet, I'm gonna go back into my page, and you can see that I retweeted on my actual profile. So with the project that you're gonna be working on, it'll actually modify your own Twitter. Like it'll actually work. It'll do stuff in the real world, essentially. So yeah. Yeah, you're gonna use Twitter's API. Yeah. If you don't have a Twitter, make one, or just create a fake one and start following people, because this actually works with Twitter. So no more fake stuff going on. You guys are gonna start making real shit. Yeah. So hope to see you guys next week. I was about to say tomorrow, but that's another class. So good luck, guys. And let me know if you have any questions. I'll have office hours this Friday. I'll email all of you the location and the time soon, in case you have questions. Yeah, take care, man.
Cool.